All right, I'm here with Maze Jackson. Maze, you want to introduce yourself, tell the audience a little bit about who you are, what you do, what you got going on?
You know what? Shout out to the tribe. Thank y'all for having me today. I want to tell you my name is Maze Jackson. I am uh the owner and the managing partner of the Intelligence Group. We're a boutique public affairs and lobbying firm that focuses on creating environments conducive for people to do business in the city, county, and state. And eventually, hopefully, the nation. We're expanding our practice to Congress. So hopefully you'll see some of our work there. I think I have a unique perspective as a lobbyist. I've had a variety of iterations. I started out in the hip hop world as a urban marketer, an urban marketing pioneer in Chicago. Fell in love with Chicago politics in the late 1990s, early 2000s, and have been involved at every level. Became a lobbyist in 2010. Um, and I learned way more than I probably was ready for at the time. Went a little crazy, recognizing how much power politics had in our effects on our lives and the fact that we weren't getting our cut. So I started an organization called What's in It for the Black People that probably didn't go over as well as we would have thought of in Springfield. So I had an unceremonious dismissal from the former Speaker of the House, Mike Madigan, where I then retransformed myself again to a radio morning show personality host, where I hosted at WVON, the morning show, for approximately 4 years, and then went on to host my own show and podcast, long format. And now I am currently back in Springfield, Illinois, as a lobbyist. Sorry, a lot of life.
No, 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 you good. You are good. So tell me about what's going on. I've seen your post on Facebook about Rich Miller and Capitol Fax and this article that they got up about Mayor Johnson and the far right have something in common, which is blaming wealthy Jews for their own failures. What's to that? What's going on with that?
So first of all, before we get into this conversation, I want to make sure that anyone recording, watching, listening, understands that if I happen to get some of the words wrong, it is no intent to offend, to say anything bad, or to denigrate anyone. Sometimes, as an older person, I'm 55, language and words have changed. And so I'm not exactly always sure. Now, that stated, and I think we have to do a little level setting.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not the shortest talking person, but I'll try and do this. Rich Miller and Capitol Fax is the preeminent insider source of information in Springfield, Illinois. It
Mm-hmm.
is a publication that if you know, you know. If you don't, then you'd be like, who is Rich Miller? What is Capitol Fax and why do I care? But that is where, if you are a lobbyist, a legislator, a staffer, it is the place people go to really find out what's going on. He has a morning subscriber only newsletter that comes out that really kind of sets the tone for the day. Um, in Springfield legislatively, he kind of picks the winners and losers. It's like it's a compilation of a bunch of different articles with his input, and then he'll mix in the fact that he can talk to legislators, leaders, governor's office, has a variety of inside sources for the past 30 years. Um,
So this sounds like political a little bit, or it's different than political.
it's political before political,
Okay.
right? But Springfield specific, right? It's
Mm-hmm.
Springfield specific, but it is the preeminent newsletter read. It used to come out as it's called Capitol Fax, FAX, because when it first came out, it was a one-sided two-page newsletter that came over a fax machine, and everybody would wait at 10 o'clock in the morning for it to come by, and you get all the scoop, whether anywhere you were. And since then, it's evolved into a blog.
Mm-hmm. Okay, perfect. And so now, I've heard a lot about the way that Mayor Johnson is being covered in Springfield, and I'm assuming Capitol Fax has something to do with that. So what does it mean when you see this piece in Capitol Facts about Mayor Johnson and the far right? One, comparing Mayor Johnson and the far right, uh, and then saying that they have something in common, which is blaming wealthy Jews for their own failures. What is that pointing to? What is that trying to say?
You know what? Let me say this. I think the comparison to the far right, I think, is laughable, right? I think
Mhm.
anybody that tries to compare this mayor to the far right, seeing everything that he's done as it relates to, he gets in trouble with black folks for some of the benevolent socialist ideas that he has. So I don't think comparing him to the far right really resonates. But I do think the second set of choice of words and comparing him and saying, blaming, I'm going to say the Jewish community, because again, that's not what the headline read, but projecting that instantly creates the environment for people to call this mayor anti Semitic, perhaps,
Mhm.
right? And we know that in a world where people don't read a lot and they don't want to read more than, what is it, 120 characters, people will make fun of you for think pieces, right?
Mhm.
Um, when you put a headline out of there in what is considered one of the most reputable sources, news media, traditional news media outlets reference the Capitol Facts for inside information. And when you put that in the universe, and they're understand that that headline, and then you click the link in the story, there's no mention of any race or religion, but here on the headline on the preeminent says that our mayor is against the Jewish community. That can have long lasting impacts. And oftentimes when you're doing TV and radio TV commercials, Capitol Facts, you can just use the splash, the headline, rip the headline, Capitol Facts, date, time, Mayor Johnson, and this Jewish comment, that makes him appear as being anti-Semitic, particularly at a time when the they are pointing out the rise in anti-Semitism, as well as trying to connect that to the mayor's support of Palestine. Now, I'm not in that fight.
Mhm.
But what I will say is that it's dangerous when what is considered one of the most reputable sources in Springfield splashes that, and it opens up to you open up the Capitol Facts and that's the headline that you get. Everybody's just going to be like, whoa, what did he do this time?
Right.
What did he say this time? And it becomes a pile on. And before anybody reads it, it's like, did you hear the mayor was against? He's blaming. And then it just becomes a pile on. And honestly, I'm going to tell you, that was really what put me over the edge. But what I've also noticed in this publication is that they try to make the black men particularly look inept. We
Mhm.
have unprecedented black leadership at this time in Springfield.
And you're talking about when you say this publication, you mean like
Capital
this
fact
particular article or Capital Facts in general?
in general.
Okay.
They never miss a chance to portray black men as if some of the smartest black men that I've ever met and shrewdest in politics as inept. And I
Mhm.
had been talking about it all week. And when the mayor came down to Springfield and the mayor and the speaker got together, it dawned on me that, right in this environment, this might be the last time that we see two of the most powerful men in Springfield embracing each other, right? And that's historic for me as a political person. Um, but it's when I started to realize all the coverage that you read every day. And so what I recognize is that it internalizes that black men are inept and ineffective, and sets that into the Springfield narrative. And as we went through this Bears deal, the appearance that if the Bears deal didn't go through, then the brothers messed it up. But if it
Right.
did go through, then it was because some other people had to come in and save them, as
Mhm.
compared to recognizing the depth of thought that it goes into. Tomorrow on my page, I'm gonna break down some of the inaccuracies that came out of that narrative. Because if you were to believe it right now, if you were to read the media right now, you'd think that the mayor and the speaker are the reason that the Bears aren't staying in Chicago, and that's just not true.
Well, a lot of the narrative around the mayor is this thing of he's not up for the job, he's inept, he doesn't understand politics. And some of that is also set down in Springfield, where he doesn't have relationships with people down in Springfield. It's constant headlines about him and Governor Pritzker bumping heads with each other. And in this particular piece for Capitol Fax, it's talking about Michael Sachs and taxing the rich, and the taxing the rich thing didn't work for Mayor Johnson, and this is, and I think in this piece, Michael Sachs actually says he was never in opposition to it, which is questionable because I believe he was in opposition to it. What is this about? What's the dog whistle here that people may not be tapped into, because it's really Governor Pritzker is a Jewish man. There's just so many layers of what's really trying to be said here that I feel like people may not be able to peel back.
Well, here's what I would say. I would say that anti-Semitism is nothing to play with. The inference of anti-Semitism can have your career wiped out. It can change the whole dynamic. It can get millions of dollars placed against you, right? And this, I think that this publication is probably invested in seeing the mayor be unsuccessful. And so whenever there's a chance to twist the knife, you twist the knife. What I found so unsettling about this was that if you read the article, no one mentioned Jewish anywhere in the article at all. So what we're listening to, what the man who's setting the narrative said, is what he thought, not what anyone said. And I think that should be considered whenever you think about what this guy's, that's the language he chose to use. So if that's the language he's choosing to use when he's talking about taxes and debates, what is he saying about us? And what is he saying about those other people? But I don't want there to be the projection or the inference that anywhere in the article that Mayor Johnson implied anything about race or religion in this fight over the head tax. And I think Mr. Miller was very cavalier in taking that reputation and trying to exacerbate what is already a tense situation regarding Palestine, Israel, and all of those issues.
And this is my last question for you, because I know you're down in Springfield and you're working. Um, for the average person who's watching this play out, or who may be seeing headlines like this, as we're coming up on election seasons, election cycles, you got Mayor Brandon Johnson. We don't know if he's, going to run or not in 27, but that cycle is approaching. We have Governor Pritzker, who also is, trying to enter the ring for the presidential race when that comes around. What should Black people be paying attention to, and how should they be reading beyond what these headlines are telling them? Because that's something that we talk a lot about in our newsletter.
So I'm going to tell you what they need to do. What needs to happen is the tribe needs to come to Springfield, and the tribe needs to get more resources so they can expand their coverage. Let me just say this. I think what's so important about this is us understanding who are the people that are setting the messages for us, right? We take our cues right now because we don't really have a constituted news source. And so what I'm saying is, Black folks, you got to read more than just what you see in a headline. You've got to take a deeper dive. You've got to start asking questions. And you got to say right now, when you look at the records of everybody else, at what point in our history, the challenge that I have really, and I'm gonna move just a little bit away from your question, but what I think we should take away from this.
Mhm.
I came up in the Daily era. That's where I made my way. And just like I said there would never be a Black president, I said there would probably never be a black mayor, much less a black mayor and a black speaker, much less a black mayor, a black speaker, a black finance chair, a black budget chair. Imagine what I am saying is my wildest imagination, and I'm concerned that we're squandering it.
Mhm.
I feel like I'm on the vacation and I keep pushing the excursion back to the next day, to the next day, to the next day, and we're gonna look up and the vacation is gonna be over.
Mhm.
What black folks should look at is the problems that we are faced with have been generations in the making. No one prepares you to be the mayor of the city of Chicago. You got to spend this time learning where the doors are, how to manipulate the space. And I
Mhm.
just want us to have some grace and to recognize that we are living in a time that 20 years ago I would have never believed that we had this opportunity. We got to figure out a way back to each other. And let me just say this,
Mhm.
whether you agree with the mayor or not, we don't need to be in public calling each other names. Because
Mhm.
all we do is give license to others to call names, but they add a little spice to it when we not in the room, if you know what I mean.
Right.
So I just need for you all to recognize that as you're looking at this, recognize that the people that are writing the headlines want their stuff back. They want their space back. We are occupying their space. They know what's in that office. He's got to learn it. Don't give it away before we have a chance to really experience what it can be like to be in power.
Maze, I appreciate you so, so much for everything. I read your Facebook all the time and all your insight, and I'm learning just as much from reading and watching you. So we appreciate you here at the Tribe.
Well, let me tell you what, I appreciate what you at the tribe do, right? I am so proud that you all are picking up the torch. There was a time when we had a Chicago Defender, when we had somebody that could tell our stories. Right now, we got Facebook, we got the tribe, and I know it's a lot of pressure. It's a lot of pressure that y'all got, but we need y'all. And so I thank you for what y'all do. And we don't always agree, right? Because
Yep.
y'all young people do a little different than, I'm an old guy, right? But let me
But we
just say,
learn from each other. We learn from each other,
and
though.
that's what, and we, as long as we have a way to each other, as long as we understand that we are the same people, we might not have the same vehicle to get there, but we trying to get to the same place. So I just want to tell y'all, I commend y'all, and I'm thankful for what y'all do, and y'all keep striving. And hey, capitalism, you gotta get some capital to be a capitalist, so you can get some, so you can pay for that socialism, right?
Blessings, man. Blessings. We appreciate you.
Appreciate y'all.